Hey, what do you know? This is the Melvin Live Show, and tonight, I'm trying something absolutely new here. Um, the platform that I'm trying out, it's called Video Link, and essentially allows me to use just one software to be able to broadcast to a whole series of sources. So, like for example, right now I am trying out broadcasting to YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter. So if you're watching this for the first time, welcome to the Malvin Live Show. What do we talk about here? We talk about the one person, 1 million all digital business, right? And in this whole process itself, the show essentially helps you think about how to create digital assets, automate your processes, and then to be able to accelerate your growth. All this in this channel itself. So if that is what you want, make sure you subscribe to this channel, follow me on Facebook, and you know, tweet me on Twitter. Right. And so today, today I just want to give you a a background of what happened today. Today I'm like a proud. I am a proud father, right? Because today was the first time that my son participated in the sailing regatta, and it was an absolutely eye opener, I think, for him as well as for us. And I think the whole process itself really allowed him to grow in terms of the progress, in terms of this from the sports angle, but also, in terms of his ability to become more independent, more responsible, and also more helpful. Well, so that is something that I am so proud of. So today we want to talk about automation, and the title of today's episode is say it says that automation is not a silver bullet until. So until what? Now, so before we go into that itself, I'd like to give you a bit of a background. So the premise of this is that when you are looking at creating a business, what you want to do is that you want to be able to automate as much of the processes as possible. So because as a one person digital business itself, there's just so much that you can do in a day, right? And so there are certain things that you need to automate. What are some of the things that, right off the bat, you can automate at a very simple level. So one, for example, it's meetings, booking meetings, right? So booking your calendar, for example, instead of people having to email you and say, how is Friday 3 p.m. or how is Friday 3 p.m. mountain time, and you have to struggle with time differences, and then it has daylight saving and everything just throw off, right? So at a very low level, essentially, you are able to look at automating the calendar booking process. So, for example, when someone want to book an appointment with me, to book a call with me, all I do is just to send them to my um, calendar website, right? And on the calendar on my website. Now, as they go there, when they go there itself, essentially they will be able to book and select the time according to their time zone based on my availability, right? And so it doesn't require me to do any form of back and forth, right? And once that meeting is booked, an email gets sent out to both party, and immediately my Google Calendar gets blocked. So that is a very simple level of automation. A second level of automation essentially is when someone goes to my website and they sign up for the newsletter. Which, speaking of which, if you have not signed up for the newsletter, make sure you head on down to melvin.me and sign up for the newsletter. The fourth issue, it's coming up tomorrow, right? So every Sunday I publish a weekly issue of things that can help you build your 1 person 1 million or digital business, focusing on creating digital assets, automation, as well as accelerating your growth. So back to the thing, right? So when people head on down to my website, they would be able to sign up for my newsletter. And when they sign up for my newsletter, the first few emails that they get, all those are automated, right? All those are automated. And so when it comes to that level of automation itself, essentially, I do not need to physically be notified that someone has signed up for my newsletter, and then I have to go and trigger sending out of those emails itself. So the email sequencing and automation, all that it's done, right? And if you like, I have a tool that can help you do that. And if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, you can actually do it for free, even with the automation, right? So if you want, make sure you comment below and say newsletter. Now, so the email newsletter or the email sequencing part is another low level thing that you could automate. Now, a third kind of thing that you can automate, for example, would be when people make a purchase, right? So I have, for example, on my website itself, you can buy the checklist for creating your online course. You can buy an online program, for example, and that whole process again is automated, because when someone buy the checklist or the online courses, I do not need to scramble and get out of bed in the middle of the night just to send the person that that PDF file of the checklist. And I do not have to create an account for this person so that the person is able to log in to his or her account to access my course. So all this are automated, right? So these are the I would call the lowest level kind of automation. Now, in order for automation to really reach a certain level where you can see that level of efficiency and effectiveness, in other words, you're able to enhance your productivity, it comes down to one thing. And that one thing itself, it's actually understanding your workflow, right? And so I'm a big fan of workflow and the whole process mapping itself. So I want to know, for example, how how do I, create an output, right? So I have a few things that I need to create every day. For example, I need to I need to create, say, a an article every day, right? I write an article every day. I write an essay every day, right? And I publish a newsletter every week, right? I create this video, this live stream every day. So with all this thing that I'm doing right now, how do I make sure that all this thing is done, and and so that being the output itself, what I would do is I will map it back, right? And so I'll say, okay, in order for me, so let's just take one example. In order for me to write an article every day, what I will need to do is before I publish the article, I must have A, written down the article, and B, created a feature image for that article, right? And so, um, in order for me to create a feature image for the article, there are three things that needs to be done. Number one is I need to look for a code for that particular day itself. So, like for example, today's code is from Bill Gates, right? And he said something to the effect that, automation, it's not going to help you become efficient if your processes are inefficient. It will just magnify it. And so I thought that that was something that was really, really powerful. It kind of aligns with what I'm talking about here today. So I need to look for the code. The second thing I need to look for is I need to look for an appropriate picture. And so all this takes time, right? And then third, I would then need to put the code and the picture on this featured image. And then I need to generate that image, right? And once that image is generated, I would then have to compress it so that it loads even faster on my WordPress site. So that's the process itself to work towards that end goal, right? And so for writing the article, before the article can be written, I would need to do a few things. One is I would need to scroll through the list of content that I go through every day, right? I will go through a series of content every day, whether it's a newsletter or whether it's a book or something I have been reading, something I've been doing. I will go through all this material every day. And once I go through that material, there will be three questions that I'll ask myself. Number one is, what problem does it solve for that one person, 1 million, or digital business owner? And so the key idea behind that is, how do I solve a problem? What problem does it solve for this person? Right. And secondly, I would want to be able to write the article in such a way that it's purely from my worldview. And my worldview is me being a dad, a creator, a strategist, as well as an entrepreneur. All this intersecting, and that's my unique worldview, right? And so I would ask myself, what does it mean from my worldview? And then thirdly is, how do I then convert this into an actionable insight? So, by the way, if you have not seen yesterday's video, make sure you check it out, because I talked about how to write actionable insights. So, I would ask myself three things, right? What problem does it solve? How do I bring in my worldview? And thirdly, you know, um, how could I convert that thing into an actionable insight? Because what I want you to do is, when you read that article, it's able to help you solve a problem from a unique angle, and you are able to implement it, right? So that's what I am after, because we are all sick and tired of people telling us what to do but not how to do it. And so, you know that's the process that I will have to go through. And in addition to that, I would also have to do some research into additional articles or additional statistics or research that kind of back up what I want to say, right, from my worldview itself. And so that whole process itself, there are a few things that I can automate, and there are a few things that I cannot automate, right? So, for example, the part that I cannot automate, it's me writing. I actually have to sit my butt down and start writing, right? But the part that I can automate is I'm able to use a service to pull out certain articles that are relevant to my context of this 1 person 1 million or digital business. I'm able to pull out content that are relevant to that, and that can be done using an automation tool, right? In addition to that, I am also able to very quickly, use a tool to kind of do my research, and that can also be automated as well, right? Because from this service that I use, I'm able to have all this information forwarded to me, right? And if that's the, if there are instances whereby such things cannot be automated using software, then this is where the use of a virtual assistant comes into place, right? So the key idea here is that unless you are very clear in terms of your workflow, unless you're very clear in terms of the outcome that you want to produce and the work that is necessary in order to deliver that outcome, if you're not clear about this, then even if you want to automate it, you are not going to be very, very efficient, or worse, you are not going to be very effective. The reason is because you haven't quite figured it out, and when you think about automation, you are just going to magnify that level of inefficiency. To give you an example, previously I never had a well defined workflow for writing my article. And so I subscribe and I use the same tool to draw all these articles into my inbox. But what happens is that, day after day, all this information would just be coming in. And at some point in time, I would not be able to consume every single one of them. And that was when I get totally overwhelmed. And when you get totally overwhelmed, what's going to happen is that you're just going to give up and be like, oh, that's too much for me. I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm going to quit, right? Likewise, when producing this show itself, I will need to have some kind of a workflow in order to prepare for this show. I mean, it's not like I could just, flip up the camera and just start talking, right? There has to be some level of preparation. And the preparation could come in the process of I need to do a thumbnail. The preparation could come into the process of what are some examples that I'm going to talk about. And so that requires a fair bit of research and that workflow itself. And unless you are able to be very clear about the workflow and know which part of it you can automate, which part of it you wouldn't want to automate because that is the part that is uniquely you, that's when you have that efficiency. So, for example, for me, the whole thing that cannot be automated, it's my worldview, right? My worldview as a dad, because I want to be able to invest time with my family and yet not be compromising my earning capability, right? And so I want to have a certain level of freedom where I could invest time with my family and yet pursue my goal and yet be able to earn a living, right? And so that's how I'm looking at multiple sources of income as an example, right? And as a creator, I also want to know, I also want to look at it from the point of view, can this piece of digital material, can it become an asset? Is this something that I could use it over and over and over and over again. Because if I'm able to use it over and over again, then it's an asset because it's going to be able to continually generate leads or generate awareness for me. And so that's something that I would need to figure out as well. And as a strategist, I would want to think through the five key elements and to be able to see how this could become strategic, right? So where am I going with this? Is there a way to pivot from this piece of content, and how am I able to bring it to the next level, right? And finally, as an entrepreneur, the three questions that I always ask is, what problem does it solve? you know is it profitable? And finally, is it aligned to my purpose? And if all these three things are aligned, then yes, it's something that I will pursue, right? So my friends, I mean, if you want to build this one person or digital business, you definitely need to look into automation. But before you can go into automation itself, before you can have or experience the efficiency and the productivity with automation, you need to do this one thing. And this one thing is you need to be able to figure out what exactly is your process, because once you figure out the process itself, and then you know which part of it it's possible to automate, which part of it it's low level but doesn't have to be done by you, can be outsourced to a virtual assistant, and which part of it has to be done by you, which is something that is unique. Once you've done that, then that's where you are able to look at automation, and that's how it's able to help you gain that level of efficiency. On that note itself, I would just like to pay my tribute to Tony Xie, the founder of Zappos.com. Today, as I was looking through my Twitter feed, I saw that he just passed on at age 46. Um, it means a lot to me, and it really struck me because he's about my age, um, and because we are both of Asian descent. I can kind of identify with some of the things that he talks about. And and in addition to that, I've always admired him, his vision and his ability to see things through and to build a wonderful company that, even though people like us in this part of the world, we have never ever had the experience of buying shoes from Zappos. We've heard about the business culture and the entire company culture, you know things like they would even pay someone to leave the company, right? I mean, this is phenomenal. In other words, he didn't just create a company to meet the needs of the customers, but also to be able to build an example of an organization that we can replicate, right? And so, my prayers are with family tonight, and Tony, we're gonna miss you. All right. And so with that, thank you so much for watching, and I certainly hope that this new platform that I'm using, video link, it's good. Give me your feedback, whether is it of good quality or not, and I'll love to hear your feedback itself. All right. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.